Welcome to the Sacred Knock Podcast, where the divine speaks and the heart listens. There's a knock, a sacred one. You may not hear it with your ears, but your soul knows it well. I'm your host, Coach Michael Taylor, and I'm inviting you into a sacred space of spiritual awakening, divine insight, and conversations that remind you of who you really are. So, open the door and let your soul receive the wisdom it's been waiting for. Welcome to the Sacred Knock Podcast. Welcome to the Sacred Knock Podcast, where divine wisdom speaks and the heart listens. Today, I want to take you back to the summer of 1977. I was a teenager looking for something to do when a friend suggested that we go to the movies. We walked up to the ticket window, scanned the posters, and chose something we knew nothing about. A new science fiction movie called Star Wars. What I didn't know then was that I was about to have a spiritual experience in a movie theater. I ended up watching that movie 21 times that summer, and it took me more than a decade to understand why. Years later, I discovered the work of mythologist Joseph Campbell and his powerful framework called The Hero's Journey. In it, he outlines a path every human being takes on their journey of spiritual transformation. It's the story behind every great film, every epic quest, and maybe even your own life. When I first heard it, I realized I'm not just a man on a journey. I'm the hero of my own spiritual adventure. And guess what? So are you. So let's walk through the 12 sacred stages of the hero's journey, not as theory, but as a soul map for your life. Stage number 1, it's called the ordinary world. This is when you're stuck in your comfort zone, but you know deep down inside something's just off. I like to think of it as divine discontent. You don't understand it, but you just feel it in your soul that something's just not right. You just know deep down there's more to life, but you're unsure what it is. Stage number 2, the call to adventure. This is when life knocks. Maybe you experience a loss, a change, or just a spiritual nudge. Something in your soul says it's time to do something different. Stage number 3, refusal of the call. This is when you probably resist. You have doubt. You tell yourself things like, I'm not ready, or I'm not worthy, or what if I fail? This is the hesitation that comes before we begin to rise. Number 4, meeting the mentor. This is when the right teacher appears. And there's a wonderful saying that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And for me, it was a guy named Dr. Wayne Dyer. I started reading Dr. Dyer when I was in my 20s, but he's probably the guy that's most responsible for how I think. I really loved his messages, and I had an opportunity to meet him personally, and he was the mentor that really put me on the spiritual path. And so, again, meeting the mentor could be a person, it could be a book, it could even be a podcast like this. It's something that simply wakes you up to see life a little differently. Stage number 5, what they call crossing the threshold. This is when you finally say yes and you step into the unknown. And that sacred knock in your soul just gets a little louder and you simply decide to answer. Stage number 6, test allies and enemies. This is when life becomes your teacher and you attract people who lift you and others who may trigger you. Both are divine mirrors showing you who you are. For me, my test showed up in my divorce. It really challenged me for the first time to stop looking outside of myself and to look within to start finding my answers. Stage number 7, approach to the inmost cave. This is when you choose to turn inward. This is where healing becomes appropriate. This is when you start unpacking your emotional baggage and doing the shadow work, maybe some inner child work. You start facing the fear that you've buried for a very long time, but you decide to shine a light on those dark places in your soul. Stage number 8 is called the ordeal. And this is a breakdown moment. This is when the ego dies and the soul rises. It's probably going to be a little painful, but it's necessary. But this is where you meet your true power. And for me, it occurred when I was doing a workshop by a guy named John Bradshaw, which is called Healing Your Inner Child. And in that workshop, I learned how my traumatic childhood was still impacting my life as an adult, and I gained the courage to heal that childhood trauma. Stage number 9 is called the reward. This is where you discover your gift. You finally remember who you truly are. You start connecting to your authentic voice, your calling, your truth. And again, for me, when I did that inner child work and healed that childhood trauma, I uncovered some unique gifts and talents I didn't even know I had, like speaking and writing. So if you choose to go on this journey, you may go through some difficult times, but if you do it the right way, I can assure you, you will uncover your unique gifts and talents. Stage number 10 is called the road back. This is when you begin returning to life, but now you carry wisdom and the world looks different because you are different as a result of going on this amazing journey. Stage number 11 is called the resurrection. And in some cases, it's like a final test, and you're asked to embody everything that you've learned along the way. And when you learn to respond from love instead of fear, that means you've been resurrected, and you realize that you've become the person you once prayed you become. And stage 12, return with the elixir. Once you go on this journey, go through that dark night of the soul, discover your gifts, you now become a messenger. And now divine intelligence wants to use you as a messenger to support and empower others to go on their own hero's journey. And so what you're now doing is you're bringing your truth to the world, and your pain has become your purpose. And your story is someone else's healing. So in summary, Star Wars wasn't just a movie for me. It was a spiritual metaphor. You see, in the movie, Luke didn't become a Jedi by avoiding the dark. He became one by confronting it, integrating it, and trusting the Force. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're learning to trust the divine within us. We are on the hero's journey, not as fantasy, but as a sacred reality. So, if you're in the middle of a breakdown, if life feels uncertain, just remember, you're not alone. You're not lost. You're becoming. Again, you're not alone. And the same force that moved galaxies created you. This is the sacred knock. And you, my friend, are walking the most sacred path there is. The path of remembering who you truly are. So, if this episode touched something in your spirit, be sure to subscribe, share, leave a comment, and most importantly, stay open, stay curious, and stay sacred. I'll see you next episode. Take care. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Sacred Knock Podcast. We hope this episode has inspired you to listen more closely to the whispers of your soul. If this message moved you, why not share it with someone you love? Because you never know who's waiting to hear their own sacred knock. And if you'd like to dive deeper and download the free ebook, When God Knocks, 5 Divine Reminders to Reignite Your Soul, simply log on to www.knockknockbook.net to download your free gift today. Until next time, stay open, stay tuned in, and always remember, the divine is already within you.